Hey guys, it's Ben Clark with Homebuyer Representation. I wanted to go over with you some information that I got from the Utah Housing Economic Update that I went to on November 10th. Today's November 15th, so just about 5 days ago. And I wanted to share with you some of the slides that I took pictures of and some of the information that we got. So let's just jump right in. So first off, it was at Little America, and we had a couple of economists there. We had Jim Wood. He's an Ivory Boyer Fellow from the Kem C. Gardner Institute. You've got Dejan Eskik, who's a Senior Research Fellow at the Kem C. Gardner Policy Institute at the University of Utah. And then we also had Natalie Gotchner, Director of the Kem C. Gardner Policy Institute. So the best economists in the state that are always looking at what's going on with Utah's economy, and they've got some information to share with us. So first off, no surprise to anybody, eroding affordability. This chart shows us the share of households that can't afford a median-priced home in Utah. Now in 2019, 49%. It's about 50-50. So, and that makes sense that about half of the households would not be able to afford the median priced home, because half, of course, are going to buy more expensive and half are going to be buying less expensive. So that's kind of a normal market, and that's kind of where we were at before things got really out of hand price-wise. But between 2019 and today, third quarter of 2023, housing affordability has gotten significantly worse. So we're looking at 77% of households can't afford the median priced home in Utah. And that's because prices went up significantly in that time frame. And also the interest rates have gone up. So the same priced home now costs quite a bit more of your monthly budget. Okay, let's see. Oh, I went backwards, sorry. Okay, the next slide shows us the share of renter households that can't afford a median priced home in Utah. So again, back in 2021, about 67% of renters couldn't afford the median priced home, which is, partially why a large number of people are renting. But today, 92.2% of renters can't afford the median priced home. Now, when I say today, that's August 2023. So we always are a couple months behind with the data. But basically, less than 8% of renters can afford the median priced home in the state. Bad news. So we started off with the bad. Now let's talk about what's good in Utah's economy. Okay, so first, home prices since COVID were skyrocketing. They were going up at a crazy pace. Interest rates were super low. You had a ton of buyers, not a lot of homes for sale on any given day. They were still had plenty of homes selling, but they didn't last very long on the market. Homes were selling in, 1, 2, 3 days. But the average days on the market got down to less than a week, I believe. And the number of offers on homes were, often in the dozens. And the number of buyers that were willing to overpay for homes due to the competition was also, I would say, probably never before seen in the state. So things got a little bit crazy. This solid line shows us the median priced home, or the median sales price in Utah. And in 2018, that was about $275. Okay, and you can follow that up. Things got more and more expensive. And then here's where they kind of ramp up quite a bit, and then they did that again in 2022, and they peaked here in about first or second quarter 2022, and then that median sales price started to come down significantly, and that's mainly because the interest rates went from, let's see, do I have that slide here? I don't think I have that slide right here. Here we go. Interest rates went from 2.5% in 2020 to, up to almost 8%. Just a couple months ago when this data that we were looking at was. So sorry, I'm jumping in the wrong direction here. So that meant that the median sales price home today, or third quarter into third quarter of 2023, $486,000, and the payment on that home is about $3,100. Okay. This is the effect of the interest rates. If you go back to that same median price of $486, back when interest rates were lower, the median payment was right here about $2,500. And then even going back before prices went up, if you went back to fourth quarter of 2021, that $486 purchase price, the payment on that was a staggeringly low $1,800. So we went from $1,800 for this same price in 2 years to $3,100. So almost double the price on the monthly payment for the median-sized home in just the last 2.5 years. Let's continue. So why did prices come down? So here they were at their peak, and obviously we all know the main reason they came down. Don't need economists to tell us this, but they did. The main thing is the interest rate. Okay, so when the interest rate goes from 2.5% to 8%, the number of buyers interested in buying at 8% goes down significantly, and the number of people that will sell their home when they have a 2.5% interest rate and buy a new home in the same market at 8%, not happening. So there is, again, less inventory, and but Utah's doing pretty well. Let's see. So back to this interest rate chart. This goes back to the 1970s. And interest rates then, interestingly enough, about where they are today, about 7.5%, rising up into the 80s, you get up into the 18%. And this is the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage. So this is just 30-year fixed rate mortgages. They got up to the 18% or so, and then they dropped over time, sometimes significantly, and then other times, more moderately. And then they kind of leveled out here in the 90s to 2000s. Then they continued to get lower to stimulate our economy, continued to get lower to where they were in that 3 and 4 range. Then they crept down into that 2.5 range. And then almost overnight, they raised those suckers up. Now, we knew back in 2017, one of these same presentations, same economists said that in order to keep inflation and prices from running amok, they should have raised interest rates back 2017, 2018, and they should have raised them kind of on a slow, moderate rise. And then they probably could have kept them in that 6% range and not gone up to such an extreme. The problem was that home prices were running crazy. As these rates went down, people were willing to overpay for homes, and the home prices were shooting up. And what they should have done to kind of slow that demand was start raising interest rates way back here, which it looks like they actually may have started to, but they didn't continue that. In order to stimulate the economy again, they really got those low, which in the long run, for housing prices and affordability, not necessarily the best thing. A concern that we have in the real estate industry is that because prices have not moderated, prices are still significantly high. If they lower this interest rate significantly too quickly, you've got a lot of buyers that are kind of in the wings that can't afford at 8%, but could at 6.5%, 6%. They may all come back into the market all at once, leading to a lot of competition and people overpaying again, which would be a bad idea. So good news is if you can get into a home and you can afford it at 8%, then if, again, interest rates go down to 6.5%, 6%, 5%, whatever, you can refinance. And if they don't go down, at least you got in while the rates were where they're at today. If a year from now or 2 years from now they're at 10%, you'll look at today's rate and think that it's great. In hindsight, in the very short term, interest rates, people still remember the significantly low rates, the really low rates, abnormally low rates throughout, this past 40, 50 years, never before seen. Yeah, so you have an opportunity, good time to buy either way if you are going to buy a house. No real reason to wait at this point. So the economists, this is the Mortgage Bankers Association and Fannie Mae. This is where we're at right now, above 7%. They anticipate a trickling down of the interest rate over time, possibly by the end of next year, 6%, 6.5%. Again, a slow trickle would be better than a huge drop for the housing affordability in the long run, so that we don't get too many people and that those prices don't go crazy, because they're still at, I'd say, a little higher than where they ought to be. But again, that will catch up. And I'll show you a chart later on that shows you housing prices over the years. And as crazy as it seems, the prices aren't that far out of whack today, based on historical trends. So we'll go back to that in a little bit. The economist, Jim Woods, anticipates in 2024 that prices will go up 3 to 4%. Dejan says they'll go down 0 to 2%. You take that whole swing, you're talking a 0 to 6%. Not significant changes either direction. And so we'll just kind of have to see where those go. Obviously, it depends on those other factors. If interest rates go down a lot, prices again are more likely to go up. If interest rates continue to go high, then the pricing, the median price of home is likely to go down. Okay, one of the things interesting about Utah is we have a housing shortage. So in spite of the fact that interest rates are high and the prices are high or feel high to buyers, we have a significant housing shortage. So the economists project that by 2030, we're going to need to have built 250,000 essentially homes, and they're projected to only build 70,000, that's what was built in 21 and 22. And so what remains to be built is 178,000 homes between now and 2030. So in the next 6 years, that many homes, and they don't build that many a year. So we're anticipated to still continue to have upward pressure on prices because they don't build houses fast enough, and the existing home owners aren't selling in the same numbers as they used to. Now, that's another factor, though. If interest rates do go down, then you have sellers who are more attracted to making a move. Like I said before, you don't want to give up a 2.5% rate to go into an 8% rate. If you're staying in the same town, you're probably buying a worse home at a higher payment. So, but as those interest rates get more reasonable, you can start to consider making moves like that. There are still people moving in this market, selling and buying. Obviously, housing is a necessity, and the alternative is renting, and rents are also fairly elevated in many areas. So we'll carry on here. The next, like I said, they anticipate new construction to only be building, 20,000, 18,000 a year. The builders themselves have kind of tempered because the market's slow. They don't want to build a ton of spec homes and end up getting stuck with a bunch of extra inventory that they have to reduce prices on. Their costs for labor, for materials, and their interest costs, the cost of building a home is higher. So again, they're going to be fairly conservative with the number of homes they're going to produce. The problem with being more conservative, if you don't have existing homeowners selling their homes and you don't have more homes being constructed, that number of households that need homes and there aren't homes to move into is just going to keep growing. So right now you've got a lot of people renting, you've got a lot of people co-owning, you've got a lot of people renting basements, splitting their homes and doubling up. In fact, there's quite a few builders who are building homes with accessory dwelling units on them so that the new buyer can use that income to qualify for the higher purchase price and use that income to offset their monthly payment. And that's also a new development in recent years where even without our history of being a landlord, a percentage of that income from an accessory dwelling unit can be used to help you qualify for the purchase of the home itself. So that's pretty cool that we're seeing some of those things. Again, that projected housing demand between now and 2030, Utah County is projected to have the most demand. They have quite a bit of land out there that can be developed. And of course, you've got a lot of the tech companies there. You've got a lot of entrepreneurs, and you've got, which is a cool thing I'll talk about later as well, is Utah's economy is very diverse. One of the most diverse economies in the country. So we're not completely dependent on, production of certain crops or production of certain goods or products. We've got, in Utah, we've got a lot of recreation. We've got a lot of manufacturing. We've got the hospitals. We've got the universities. We've got the ski industry, like I said, recreational things. So we've got a very diverse, the tech industry, we've got a very diverse economy. It's not all based on one thing. So that's pretty healthy. Salt Lake, again, right up there with high demand for housing units as people come to Utah for jobs and to be close to family and the outdoors and all the things that Utah has to offer. And then not far behind, Washington County, or third place, but half as many as Salt Lake County, but a growing segment of housing demand needed in southern Utah. So that's interesting to see too. It used to be that all the demand was kind of in this Salt Lake, Utah County metro area, and this southern Utah area is starting to boom quite a bit. So let's see, Natalie's presentation, she talked again about that economic diversity. So the most diverse areas, 95 plus. So you've got places like Utah, Missouri, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. So you've got a number of places that have some economic diversity. You have other places where, maybe the whole economy is based on a certain crop, or the gambling industry in Nevada. I don't know, there's probably a nicer way to say the gambling industry, but oil and such. So there's different economies. Different states have less diverse or more diverse economies. Utah, and this is based on an index from 2021, is one of the more diverse economies. So that's super good, which is why our economy has been able to weather some of the tougher times that we've been through, because the different segments get hit in different ways at different times versus the whole state being hit all at once and everything going to pot or not. So. The labor force participation. So the average percent of the participating in the labor force across the country is only about 63%. So that, but in Utah, we're at almost 70%. So the people in Utah want to work and they're out there doing it. So that's pretty cool. And we also have I think the number one, the leading social capital. And what social capital is it means that you work together, there's institutional effectiveness. It's good. I don't remember exactly what you said, but basically people work and support, and not just individuals, but companies will collaborate and networking, things like that. So next is this net migration that we've been talking about. So out of 31 of the past 32 years, there has been, and so it's not going prior to 1970, but out of the past 32 years, 31 of the years there was net migration, which means, so it looks like they're probably not going past, they're not going past 1990 or 1991. So since 1990 or 1991, every year Utah's population has grown. These numbers do include people that are moving out of the state, but it's the net. So after people have left, how many more came, and they do the math, and it looks like significant growth I don't have the average here, but it looks like probably around 15 to 20,000 new people in the state each year. And, some years better than others. But right now we're as high as we've ever been. 2022, 38,000 people moved into the state, net growth after taking out for those who left the state. So pretty good there. This is interesting. So where they're coming from, where are these people coming from that are moving to Utah? The highest percentage is coming from California. So the bulk of that, the bulk, but 16%, the largest number of people moving into the state are coming from California, followed by Texas at 7% of those people, Idaho 6.6%, and mostly these western states. So, but another interesting fact, and this was really cool, I'm glad they showed us this, is the place of birth of those that are moving back into, or that are moving to the state of Utah. 26% of those people that are coming from these other states moving into Utah were born in Utah. So a lot of people coming home, they've gone, they've left, they've graduated, they've gone to get jobs in other states, but 26% of the people moving to Utah were born here. So a lot of people coming back. 13% of the people moving here were born in California. Same thing. So a lot of these western states, a lot of people moving here are from there, but I thought that number was really fascinating there. That 26% of the people moving into the state are from or were born in the state. So that's cool. Just wanted to point out a couple of these things. So again, that labor force participation rate in Utah, the third highest in the country. Oops, let's go back. And median household income, 11th in the country. So not near the bottom. We're not way at the top, but 11th, so in top 20% ish. And then you've also got ranked first in that social capital that we talked about. Okay, so this is another interesting slide. So during COVID, this is every state's listed here one at a time here. And this is the economic performance during COVID. So job changes by state, February 2022 to September 22. The national average 2.9, but as you can see, that's carried by only about the top 10 states or so. So everyone else, not quite as high. And you've got the bottom, 15 states or so where they actually lost jobs and didn't gain them back during that 2-year period. Utah not only gained them back, so it looks like 2.9 was the average, but we gained 7.3. So more than 2 times better than the national average, and second place, only next to Idaho and Montana is third place there. So Utah does pretty well economically due to some of those other factors that we talked about. The 7 best things about Utah, she was saying economically, demographic growth. So a lot of people moving into the state, young and well-educated workforce, diverse economy, as we also mentioned. The location of the state is fantastic. We've got a lot of outdoor recreation opportunities. We're also, the gateway to the West, and so kind of the center of the crossroads of the West here. Fiscal responsibility. So again, there are different opinions on these following ones, but generally compared to other states, fiscally responsible, and it says reasonable tax and regulatory structure. So as anyone who lives here and is a homeowner, we know that property taxes have gone up. But if you were to compare it to other states, which they showed us a chart, I don't have a copy of that one, but we're still doing okay. So, and there are, we're told, some tax changes that have been made that should ease some of that increasing taxes we've been feeling, but they haven't quite kicked in yet. So they've been approved, but they haven't kicked in yet. So we'll see kind of how that goes. And then that social capital, again, just a good place to work and live and work together with other people. So that's the economic update that I got from there. I did want to cover one or two other little things that I had been working on before. Yeah, crazy. So we were just talking about how we would prefer, I would still prefer that interest rates drop slowly. Interestingly enough, just yesterday, I got an update that rates had dropped significantly. I guess inflation is under control. And so people are a little more excited to lend money at lower interest rates. So this is from yesterday, and I'm not supposed to distribute this, so don't, but I'm just showing you. So where we were talking about rates in the high sevens and low eights, now we're seeing rates in that low sevens, mid sixes. Now, again, this could change any day, but at least for that one day, crazy significant drop in interest rates. So I think people will want to, I mean, obviously, people are going to start jumping on real estate a little bit more. People who couldn't afford at 8% may be able to afford at 6.6 or 7.1 or 6.3, you know, depending on the loan type and program and their credit scores and the amount they're borrowing and all those other things, of course, are the caveats. But be aware that that's going to change, you know, the outlook from just 5 days ago. I would say it's going to look a little bit different in the positive direction. So this is all transactions house price index for Utah. And this is, you know, basically what the house prices were, you know, pre-1980. And, you know, if you're following this price trend, in general, buying real estate, especially if you're going to stay in an area for a long period of time, you can see there's not a lot of dips on this graph. Even in the 80s, this is what surprised me probably the most, because we know interest rates were crazy high in the 80s, but not a lot of dips here. COVID, or I'm sorry, pre-COVID, the last recession we had where prices got a little out of hand, they started going up at you know, 10, 15% annual rate, and everyone knew that that wasn't sustainable. Obviously it wasn't. And we had a lot of short sales and other economic issues going on. But if you follow this kind of general trend here, you can see that by 2010, 2011, absolutely prices were down to where they ought to have been. And again, back following that curve, COVID prices went crazy. It wasn't until January 1st of, well, it wasn't until 2022 when prices started going. This arrow right here is January 1st of 2023. But as I was saying, if you follow kind of this chart trend here, we could say that prices maybe are about where they're supposed to be, but the problem is those interest rates, and I'll show you that here on this next slide. So this is that same home price trend, and then this is the interest rates. But like I said, not a lot of change, even when interest rates jumped up to 18%. I mean, people gotta, and these are again Utah home prices, not national home prices, but Utah home prices. You don't see a lot of change. In general, you see prices getting higher over this time period where interest rates got lower. And you do see when interest rates jumped significantly overnight this time that prices were tempered. But I would argue that, again, prices got out of hand more than they should have. They should have never been up that high. And likewise, interest rates probably never should have been quite that low. But here we are. So anyway, thanks for spending time with me and going over some of this. I hope it's informative to somebody, for those of you who enjoy data and enjoy looking at the historical trends and such. If you have any questions about the Utah housing market or buying a home in this economy, just give me a call, hit me up, send me a message, and we here at Homebuyer Representation would love to help you or your family or friends. For those who have to buy a home in this market, there's no better way to go about it than working with professionals who are specialists in helping buyers. We are exclusive buyer agents. We don't list homes or represent sellers. We only represent buyers all the time. So thanks and have a great day.